too often that members are coming to work with us simply because we live in what we call the gap. It's what they don't have. The version of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result and thinking time will be your savior, but in fact time is not. If you presented yourself now, would you be proud of the person, or would you be actually thinking, what if I'd only done that? What if I'd only acted on this? Each of us will always do more to avoid pain than we'll ever do to move towards pleasure. I think it's really just embracing what it took in order to do that, which is you knew that you weren't going to be at your best, but you still did it anyway.
This is what you're really paying for indecision and delay. Hey guys, Tristan Bond here, CEO and founder of Practice Acceleration. Welcome to today's podcast. Today, we are talking about the true cost of delay. To join me today, I've got Dave MacDonald, our head of coaching and our GM here at Practice Acceleration. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Always awesome to be here.
It's always awesome to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
Let's start talking about the cost of delay, the cost of indecision. What are we talking about? What does this mean?
Well, I get, too often that members are coming to work with us simply because we live in what we call the gap. It's what they don't have.
Yeah.
And what they're missing. And as a result of that, they're indecisive. They don't know what the next step is. And a lot of the time with that, they take zero action.
Gotcha.
So to speak. And then as a result of taking zero action, then things are not changing.
Yes.
And as a result of that, what we want to speak about today is what the true cost of what delay actually is.
Yeah, so let's speak to that point. Let's think about what is the cost of delay. So when people speak to us about growing their business, and for you guys that are listening, obviously you could likely relate to this. Think about when you've done the right thing in something in your life or your business, but you delayed so long to get to that point. And you might have said, I wish I did this years ago, right? But what does delay really cost you? Well, firstly, in that instance, it's really easy to understand. It costs you a lot of time, right? So it costs you time, number one. During that time that you didn't have this solution, it's probably cost you in other ways as well, right? Like energy, stress, exhaustion, opportunity, experience. Like delay costs you experiences you could have been out there having with family, friends, loved ones, and so forth. Time you could have better spent by yourself. Then, of course, obviously, delay costs you financially.
Yes. Because
there is a financial downside to not having the solution, right? So how do we actually get people to understand that? Like, how can we tangibly say to someone, look, here's what delay is actually costing you. How can we break through? Because to me, it seems like a decision-making matrix, right? Yep. Like I say to someone, look, how do you know when you've got the right solution? Like, how much longer are you going to keep going the way you've been going? What needs to change in order for you to change the actions that you're doing? Ultimately, I think the problem is it's the better the devil you know, right? People become comfortable putting up with things, therefore they don't change. Can you speak to that point?
Yeah, I think, it's the comfort of not making things as urgent as they need to, or having the realization of that. You and I, we're out this morning, prior to this episode, we're having a chat over coffee. And, we spoke about, there's certain members that we speak about that come at different age points.
Yes, this is so true.
So it's whether they're young, they're new. So maybe someone's listening right now and you're relatively young, and you maybe think to yourself, it's okay, there's plenty of time.
That's right. There's an abundance of time still to figure this out.
There's lots of time. So therefore, in that moment, there is not so much of an urgency of the problem.
That's right.
Then there's maybe those that are maybe, 40s and 50s, so to speak, and you might say to yourself, well, there's still time.
So what's the first one? There's plenty of time?
Plenty of time.
The second range is there's still time?
Still time. And then unfortunately, there might...
As in there's still time to fix it and get a solution?
Yeah, or still time for things to improve, or perhaps the version of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
That's right.
And thinking time will be your savior, but in fact, time is not.
That's right.
It's not going to be your savior. But then unfortunately, there's a last point, which unfortunately you and I both had a lot of empathy, which is we have individuals who might necessarily be out of time.
That's right.
And out of time in terms of how many working years perhaps they have left, or out of time in terms of how many years they may have left to truly, I wouldn't say fix it, but out of time in terms of how many years they may have left working-wise to achieve the levels that they may have had when they had the opportunity when they were a lot younger,
Absolutely.
so to speak.
Well said. So the three levels are: there's plenty of time, still time, and then out of time.
And at that point, it's like, what is the true depth of, or not? What is the pain can be is that, if you're thinking here right now is, we talked in another episode about make decisions today that your future self would thank you for.
Yes.
But to really go forward, it's like if you were to have a parallel life. Okay, I'm going to get a bit woo-woo, but if you were to have a parallel life and you were to go all the way forward.
Well, I've been watching Dark Matter recently.
I've not. Is it good?
Well, it's really good, but there's also those multiverse of parallel lives. So you should check it out.
Right. I think I will. Well, the point being is if you go fast forward all the way to when you are, at the end of your life and you were to reflect back on it, would you be, if you presented yourself now, would you be proud of the person, or would you be absolutely thinking, what if I'd only done that? What if I'd only acted on this? What if I'd only believed that? Or what if I'd only done this? So I think that, unfortunately, out of the three, the plenty of time, still time, and out of time, well, the out of time has the real urgent pain point of shoulda, woulda, coulda. We should have done this or would have done that, because they have the
pain of regret.
Yeah, it's the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret.
Yeah.
And it's at that point in time they really act, because there's the urgency that brings it up in, So when we think about the true cost of delay, it's simply because we maybe haven't put ourselves as a connected to, why does this matter now? Why do we need to do something about it now?
So why do people delay? Like, I was going to preface that and say, like, when I talk to people that are looking at joining our program, and just generally, I say to people, look, there's, you can always get more money. Like, money's abundant. It's really, it's easy to access. And it truly is. Like, when you help someone to solve a problem, you get paid for that. There's a transaction. That you can always get more money.
Yep.
But you cannot get more time.
Yes.
So why do people delay?
I think Tony Robbins said his best with the old pain-pleasure trade-off. One of the most common universal human behavioral models that that I love to dive into, Tristan, is that we do, each of us will always do more to avoid pain than we'll ever do to move towards pleasure.
Yes.
So what does that even mean? Well, what that means is that what we say we want and what we say we want to do and what we congruently believe in what we want is, as in pleasure point, as others, what are we moving towards? Our goals, our attributions. We want more money, we want more time. When we talk about the three freedoms, right? Freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of headspace. Now, these are all moving towards, right?
Yes.
But yet, there's things that we may have to embrace or encounter in order to do that, as in we might have to be uncomfortable.
And that's the thing, no one wants to be uncomfortable, right?
Correct. Well then, but here's the kicker, which is we do more to avoid pain. We do more to avoid having to feel uncomfortable or having to feel the conflict or have to feel that we're stretching ourselves. And here's the thing is that why do we stick there? Because there's it's what we call the secondary gain.
What's the secondary gain?
Well, the secondary gain is what is the positive or what is the payoff that you're giving yourself for avoiding that particular action or that particular pain point. So let me give you an example, right?
Yeah, please. Like, what would be? So I'll have another question I'll ask, but you elaborate first.
Yeah. So the example would be is I've worked with many of our members inside where they talk about, I want to have more patience. I want to have more money. And as a result of all that, I want to have more time and I want to have more of this. And it's a lot of it. It's a lot more. And what we've identified is in order for them to do that, they have to devote a little bit of time into their marketing, which might result in them embracing new platforms. Yeah. It might be a result in embracing new messaging that we give them in some of our text campaigns and some of our online platforms and media marketing. Either way, it might even be them embracing themselves on camera.
Yes.
So as a result of doing that, they know they want this and they say this, but when it comes down to it, they actually have to do some doing. There's some actions they have to take. Now, as a result of doing that, they find other things to do rather than do the thing, such as learn more content or listen to another podcast.
Yeah.
Or go and get another opinion or whatever it may be. Because as a result of doing that, what they're actually doing is avoiding the pain. And the secondary payoff is that as a result of avoiding the pain, they feel comfortable. They feel secure. Or they just need to learn another thing. And as they're learning another thing, because it's, but once I learn this, I'll then be able to do that. Well, in other words,
I'll do this when, rather than you've had a great time.
Yeah, so it's like, because of X, I can't do Y. Because I don't know enough, I can't do Y. Or because it's not perfect, I can't do Y. Whereas, imperfect, but progress over perfection.
Yeah.
Even when I'm not really good at it, or even when I'm still going to give it.
Do it even when.
Yeah, well, everyone remembers. Everyone remembers the first time they tried to do something and they sucked at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then over time they get better. But I think if I can just want to wrap up this point, is we do more to avoid pain than we'll ever do to move towards pleasure.
Isn't that interesting?
But yet it's about embracing that and having awareness. Remember, I spoke in a previous episode about awareness. And once you're aware, then you can choose. And because people don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
But a lot of the time, especially when it comes to marketing, so I trust that people that are listening will probably relate to this point quite a bit, which is, I know I want to get new patients. I know that I have to market. I know that I have to put myself out there. But there's just, I feel a bit uncomfortable doing it, or I'm not too sure, or I don't know the how. So rather than actually just embrace the challenge, they actually avoid it or put it off. And as a result, they just feel a little bit more safer. They just feel a little bit more comfortable. So, it's a bit like the relationship. Sorry, one more point. It's like, people sit on the couch and maybe they're having a conflict or maybe there's an argument. Well, then what they do is they go and put on a 42-minute episode on Netflix, because then they're safe for 42 minutes. The 10-second version where it goes to the next episode is a little bit of uncomfort, a bit of uncertainty because, do we talk about it now? Or do we just, and then when the next episode goes on, it's like, feel good again. Yeah. They're not actually moving any further forward.
No.
Because they're just avoiding when it's happens. I think people delay because they don't embrace the secondary gain. They don't embrace the thing, the natural positive payoff that's actually keeping them stuck in that moment. But when they actually embrace that, they take the necessary and comfortable action, and then that moves them towards maybe where they need to go. And unfortunately, those that are a bit on in life, when they say, I'm out of time, the urgency of obviously to embrace that is a little bit than the other person who said, I've got lots of time.
Well said. One thing I just want to speak to, a point you just raised before, Dave, is people, like, you've got to be uncomfortable. And I'm not sure about you, but people have said this to me before. Have you ever heard the phrase, and for you listeners and viewers watching as well, have you ever heard the phrase, become comfortable with being uncomfortable? Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
And I find this really interesting because people say, Tristan, you need to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I go, well, hang on, that doesn't make sense. So I'm uncomfortable, but I'm comfortable at the same time. That doesn't make sense to me. So what I have been saying to our members for a long time now, and even to our team, is to make a change, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And it should feel uncomfortable. So if you're doing it, then it's feeling uncomfortable, doesn't feel pleasant, but that's a necessary feeling to get to that next level.
Yeah.
And the way that we get past this with team, and you and I do a lot of work with our team, only every day.
Yes.
Right? Only every day do we, like, where attention goes, energy flows.
Results show.
Exactly. So our attention goes into our team a lot, especially like leading our leaders, because then we can amplify our movement. So when I'm meeting with our leaders and I'm doing training with our team, I say, look, here's an action. Like, you're here now and you want to get to there. This isn't a matter of like, how quickly can you get to the end? It's, okay, let's map out all these steps along the journey. What is the first step? Can you take that? Yes, I can. Okay, well, what would you need to do that? We give them all the resources. Okay, let's do it. And remember, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And we do it and they feel uncomfortable. But when they do it multiple times, it's like immersion, right? Like, they're going to get past it. Eventually, it has no charge. Initially, it has a lot of emotional charge, but eventually it doesn't have much emotional charge at all.
Absolutely.
It's like, if you, there's no books out there saying, here's how you ride a bike. Now I've said that out loud, I'm sure that someone will Google that and they'll probably
tell you all this.
Yeah. But like, I don't believe that, well, I certainly didn't learn to ride a bike by reading a book on riding a bike. And you get on the bike and you do it, and it feels uncomfortable. You want the outcome.
Yes.
Right? But when we think about that analogy, I think there are so many people, like you said, that want to avoid the pain of failure so much, or that feeling of discomfort, that they don't take the action.
Yep.
So they'd rather not feel that discomfort than get the pleasure on the other side.
That's right. Or feel that, or in a sense, what they tell themselves, the story, I'm going to say in my language here, is the story that they tell themselves is that I don't know enough, or I need to have X, Y, and Z in place before I do it, rather than just embracing the unknown or the uncertainty, But you only have to, rather than looking forward where you might be a bit unsure, success leaves clues. You spoke about before, which is that, riding the bike, because once you learn, you never forget.
That's right.
And it may have been a while since you've done it, But there's also, I think for all our listeners here, I'm sure you can think back to something that you learned for the first time, and how did you feel in that moment versus how well you are doing it now.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it's really just embracing what it took in order to do that, which is you knew that you weren't going to be at your best, you know, but you still did it anyway. So there's a great book by the name of Susan Jeffers wrote the book Best, which is
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Clever you.
Yeah, clever you.
Clever us.
Clever us. Yes.
I like that.
You know, feel the fear and do it anyway, which is embracing, you know, for what purpose are you doing it?
Yeah.
And, you know, overcoming. I think I'll say to another point is, in other words, why would you want to do the thing that you wanted to do, right? And does that align with something that matters most to you? We spoke in another episode about priorities. Well, I know that if the priority is, if you, for whatever reason, you're deciding to do the thing that you need to do, for what purpose are you doing it? And if you're committed to that, because there's a big difference between being committed to that versus just interested in it.
That's right. Huge difference.
Kind of interested until you're not. But when you're committed, it presupposes that I'm going to embrace all the things. I'm just going to do it, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes.
I'll find a way over it, under it, around it. But if I'm energetically or any other way raise the challenge or raise the reason why I'm not doing it above what that goal is, well, I'll probably find an excuse not to do it.
That's right.
You know, it's kind of like being interested versus committed to work.
Isn't it interesting? You know, I think that what the level we're talking about, where we all make excuses, like we're all human, but ultimately, like, it's delay that causes the problem.
Yep.
So I just want to speak to that point now and say, like, at the end stage of, I mean, there's a payoff of, like, I'm not going to take action because, I just want to, like, shift gears a little bit and say, if you want to get somewhere in life, you need to surround yourself with people that are on that same path or who are already there. Because some are going to, like, push you along and, like, guide you. Others will suck you into their slipstream. But if you're spending time with people that share the same belief and they're delaying as well, eventually the stories just go around so much and it ends up morphing into something else entirely. For example, I meet people that are out of time.
Yes.
And they want to make a shift. And I've worked with some people that are out of time and have been able to help them get more time and to get a better outcome. But the reality is a lot of people I meet that are out of time, they get to me and they'll get to us and they'll say, you know what? Business isn't that important. They've let go of their goal entirely.
Yeah.
And because they need to justify all the delay they've made their entire life.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm happy. Money doesn't make you happy. I'm like, how would you know? You've never had any.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just these negative things like, oh, well, it's unethical to be successful. I'm like, what? It doesn't make any sense. It's unethical to make money out of healthcare. I'm like, says who? I think it's unethical not to be successful in everything you do, because I think it's a waste of talent. It's a waste of our very existence. But I think it's like this delay story. If we end up surrounding ourselves by other people that aren't growing, they're ripe and rotting.
Yep.
Our entire reality of, like, what's possible changes.
Yeah. Well, you say a lot to us all. You know, you are the value of the people that you spend, the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's right.
You know, and just by simply shifting who you spend your time with, then naturally things will start to shift. But also, to speak to your point there, I think there's immense value in the you know, the principle of impermanence.
Yes.
You know, this whole art of letting go. Like, let go of this belief, or let go of what this value is, or let go of...
Well, beliefs aren't true, otherwise they're fact.
Yeah, they're just convenient assumptions, aren't they?
Yes.
You know?
Or inconvenient.
Inconvenient, to that matter, yeah. But I think that, you know, the point to speak about, I think that too often, the reason why many of our listeners and many people out there that hold on or delay is because they're not willing to let go. They're
That's
not
right.
willing to let go of something that they've always done, or that's just the way we've always done it around here.
Yeah.
You know, well, who says that's to be true, you know? So I think that it's just embracing the art of letting go.
Yeah.
And will invite new into your world, and new can be a different outcome, which can mean things can be faster.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of the time people come and work with us, Tristan, quite simply because it's, hey, I realized that I couldn't do it all myself.
And honestly, if you're listening, like, you can't. Like, that's the reality. Like, there are things that I want to do in life that I could not do without another who in my life.
That's
and
right.
for practice owners, we are that who.
That's right. And they let go and realize that maybe they just need a little bit of help, and it was okay to ask for help, and we're not just because they asked for help doesn't necessarily mean to say that they're any less of a person that figures out.
No, it makes you more courageous.
But if anything, it's they end up going faster and further than the person who tried to do it all by themselves.
Absolutely.
And I think at times that people just let go of the fact that, you know what, I'm not going to do this all by myself. I am going to get a bit of support. I'm going to get a bit of help, and I'm going to be around someone who's going to, stop me from delaying any further. And, we speak to so many of our successful members after, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, sometimes even 24 months, and they reflect back on their journey with us. And, a lot of the time they just say, of all the magical things that we've done together, but I think the one common theme is, why didn't we do it sooner?
That's right.
Why didn't we get in there sooner?
Absolutely.
But you don't know what you don't know, and until you're willing to...
The more you know, the more you realise you don't know.
And we're always green and growing, not ripe and rotting, like you said. So we're always looking to evolve into if we want something we've not had, we've got to go and do something we've never done.
Exactly.
And for many people, it's doing things that we keep putting off, or that we go and reach out and we sometimes maybe invite new into our world. So that the mental load, I can only imagine how much the mental strain and what we're trying to figure everything out.
Yeah.
You and I, we work so well and we move so much faster because we don't have to have all of the mental load ourselves.
That's right.
Now, you do some of the thinking, I do some of the thinking, but together, we go a lot faster rather than...
And it's not 2x, it's 10x.
Correct. That's right. So can someone out there actually leverage off of some of the things that we're actually saying by letting go? And, what is it they need to then start embracing today that's going to give them a better tomorrow? So
I'm going to just summarize this and package it all up to finish off this episode. But I think delay is based on the premise that something's going to happen over time. Change will happen over time. Success will happen over time. Change doesn't take time. Change takes a decision. It takes a decision to say, okay, this isn't serving me anymore in order to get to where I want to be. And it's the honest truth of looking in the mirror and being really honest with yourself and being courageous enough to say, hey, something needs to change. I don't know what it is. Putting your hand up and finding a who that's done that before and making the decision to take one step forward.
Yeah. You
don't have to take the 51st step. Like you say, your second step is your what's the analogy you use? Your second attempt isn't going to be as good as someone else's 10th attempt.
Oh yeah. So someone's normal. Someone's normal is someone else is amazing.
That's right.
Yeah, but don't compare apples and oranges. Don't compare your chapter 1 to their chapter 10.
That's right.
Depending on where you are in the journey.
We have within our program, we got foundational. People are at the foundational level, then they're acceleration level, and then they're at multiplication level and amplification. But people that are accelerating and multiplying, they only get there because they did what was required in the foundational level.
A bespoke penthouse is built on strong foundation.
Exactly.
Which is commonality.
Correct. Commonality.
Yeah.
Well said. So the whole concept of delay, I say to someone, well, what is delay giving you? What's it costing you? Are you prepared to be here again in 6 months, having lost another 6 months? Why now? Why are you not willing to put up with that anymore? And until you come to that realization that you're not willing to put up with it anymore, only then are you willing to take a step forward. Only then are you willing to go, you know what, I've had enough of this.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with you, by the way. There has been something very wrong with the delay, choosing delay, because that's indecision. The opposite of a yes is not a no, it's indecision.
Yes.
Right? It's just indecision. Imagine if you and I are having a conversation, Dave, and you're like, Tristan, do you want to do this? I'm like, maybe. You're like, okay. So do you want to go out for lunch today, Tristan? And we're sitting here and lunch is coming up shortly, then we're going to have a meeting after. I'm like, do you want to go out for lunch, Tristan? Maybe. I'm like, so is it a yes or is it a no? I'll let you know. 20 minutes past, Tristan, you go out for lunch? Maybe. I'll let you know. Not ready yet.
Yeah.
Eventually what's going to happen is you'll go out for lunch and I'll be hungry.
Yeah.
But also...
I'll have a great time.
Yeah, and I'll have missed out.
Yeah.
But then resentment creeps in. Okay? So between two people, if there's a conversation and there's indecision, resentment creeps in and fracture. That's what you're doing with delay. You're the cognitive dissonance between what you say you want and what you're getting. There's internal dissonance and you end up resenting yourself. And if you cannot trust yourself to take a simple action, no one else is going to trust you. That's the truth, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, even if you think about decision, decision comes from, forget historically, it comes from the Latin word, which is to kill off. So to cut off.
No, I did 3 years of Latin and I didn't know that.
There you go. I'll tell you something new every day.
In pictura est Cornelia sababore sedet. In the picture is Cornelia. She's sitting under the tree.
Well,
that's all I know.
Clever you. But, if you think about just simplicity, because simplicity scales, is to decide means to cut it off. You are cutting off everything that came before, and in that moment, you're drawing a line in sand and saying, now we're going to do this.
Yeah.
So I like what you said there, that the delay is not inaction, or it's no. It's
the opposite of a yes is not a no.
Opposite of a yes is not a no. Yeah, it's indecision because you haven't cut off. You're still embracing. Just, I'm curious to know, and ask everyone that's listening today, what are you willing to cut off? What are you willing to decide right now that's going to give you a better tomorrow?
Yes. Well, I think that is a very poignant part to finish today's episode on, Dave. That's, what are you willing to cut off so that tomorrow can be a lot better?
Yeah. What are you willing to no longer tolerate?
What are you willing to no longer tolerate? What are you no longer willing to tolerate?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Who will your future self in 90 days' time, what will they thank you for doing today? What's that one little micro step? What can you do? Who is your who that you can go and find? And it might be us. And if that is, please reach out. Guys, thank you so much for listening. It's been a powerful podcast today, Dave. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate you being here anytime.
Please make sure that you like the show, you share it with your friends, and please make sure that you subscribe. And if you've got some friends you feel will benefit from listening, please tag them in. We'd love to meet them. We'd love for them to listen in and learn from our experience and to benefit from that. And that way they can decide to change, because change doesn't take time. It takes a decision. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Ciao, ciao. Arrivederci.